Question D asks, what is the probability that a randomly selected person from the study either has an education level of high school or less, or does not believe in astrology? This is a slightly different type of question. The key word here is or. We're looking at two different conditions here. We're looking at the educational level of high school or less, and we're also looking at the people who don't believe in astrology. So rather than having a single condition, we have two different conditions with an or between them. Now, when we have two conditions, we have three steps we have to do. The first step is to find the probability of the first condition. Second is to find the probability of the second condition. And then once we find those, we can also find the probability of those two conditions intersecting. Now, once we get all three of those things, we take answer 1, we add answer 2, and then subtract answer 3. This will happen anytime you see the word or inside of a probability question. So let's make labels for all of these things. First, let's make a label for the probability of the first condition, the probability of having high school or less, and the probability of having not believing in astrology, and then the probability of those two things intersecting. Based on that, we can find the probability overall. First, let's look at the probability of having high school or less. We can see that having high school or less is one of our categories, here. And the number of people who have high school or less is 178. Once again, this is going to be out of 440 people. So we'll say 178 over 440. We'll write it over by the side so we don't forget, and now we'll type it here. This gives us a very long decimal number. That's okay. We can just keep going. Now the second condition, the probability of not believing in astrology. Let's go back to the table. We can see that not believing in astrology is another one of our categories in column C. And we can see at the bottom of this category we have 331. So we'll say 331 over 440 will be our probability there. So let's type this into Excel as well. We'll say equals 331 divide 440, giving us 0.752, with many more decimal places afterwards. Now, to find the probability of the intersection, first we need to locate high school or less and not believing in astrology. So high school or less was our third category in row 4, and not believing in astrology is our category in column C. So where row 4 meets column C is located here in cell C4. This is where we have both not believing in astrology and having high school or less. So we can say the intersection is 124, again out of 440. Let's type this into Excel now. And now we have all of our decimals. So to get our final answer, once again, we will use answer 1 plus answer 2 minus answer 3. So we'll say equals the first answer, plus sign, second answer, subtract the third answer. When we press enter, we get a final probability of 0.875. This will tell us the probability of having either the first condition or the second condition. Paint this gold because that will be our final answer to part D.